Speaking moistly. Speaking moistly. Keep 2 meters apart. Speaking.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Speaking Moistly. Sometimes my mouse doesn't actually stop the YouTube video. But anyway, welcome to a special edition of Speaking Moistly. With me today, I've got Jilly Davis. Jilly, how are you?
Good, thank you. And so good that you said my name right because you didn't yesterday.
I didn't. No, I know. I'm terrible with names. So Jilly is right. I was like, is it Gilly? No, it's not Gilly.
Julie is
Jilly.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not a
No,
Harry Potter
you were
character.
no, no, not this week. Maybe next week. Who
Indeed.
knows? Depends
Indeed.
on what I decide to identify with. Maybe tomorrow I'll be a Hufflepuff. I don't know.
Very cool. All right. So, you and I talked in the green room, and I said, "Did you hear about Jason Kenney on the Sky Palace?" And you said, "No." I said, "What? Aren't you from Alberta?"
I know. I was supposed to be the expert on all of these Alberta things, and I didn't know.
That's all right. This was going to be the
So,
Western edition. So I saw the Kenney on the patio, and I kind of went through for my Ontario viewers what's going on in Alberta. Why would a picture like this be uncomfortable for Jason Kenney?
well, first of all, if it is the Sky Palace, that goes back to Redford, who was an absolutely horrible premier of Alberta,
Hmm.
who built this thing for a ridiculous amount of money. And it- it's kind of a weird situation because it's like nobody's supposed to live there, even though a lot of money was spent on this Sky Palace.
Hmm.
But anyway, but also, I mean, in Alberta right now, we're still under some lockdowns.
Yeah.
So, but it's so hard to tell, like, what part of like, there's different stages. It's like everywhere.
Yeah.
You don't really know what the rules are because they're different every place that you go,
Yeah.
and they change every other week. And one minute you think, okay, you can eat out on a terrace, and then the next week it's like, no,
Yeah.
unless you're, within your bubble and wearing a mask or something. I don't know. It's all crazy.
Yeah. Well,
It's time this all stopped.
that's certainly part of it as well, and I think that it's interesting because you can't you can't feign outrage because you don't know if he's breaking the rules. Right?
Exactly.
It's like I'm so mad, and then somebody's like, "Oh, but no, he's allowed to do that." And then somebody else is like, "Well, he had to go in an elevator to get there, and then walk through the indoor part, so it's technically not allowed." And it's like, "Okay, I'm mad again." And then somebody else is like, "Yeah, but blah blah blah." Like, I don't know.
Exactly. It's like, and oh, it's okay this week, but it's not okay next week, but maybe it was okay last week, but I
Right?
don't know anymore because it's so flipping confusing.
Yeah.
It's like I was talking to somebody the other day where we were talking about the restrictions, and you can have 10 people at a funeral, or no, 10 people at a wedding, including the bridegroom, photographer, officiant, whatever. And so that's all part of the 10. But at a funeral, you can have 20, including this, and the same officiant doesn't count in the 20.
In the funeral.
Figure that one out.
That's
So, like, I was saying they were kind of like the Dementors. You're
yeah.
allowed to be, but God help you if you have joy in your life, because
Yeah.
that's not allowed.
I'll take it.
So,
Yeah, so it is it is really difficult, and I think it's meant to put us off balance, to make it so it's hard to get our bearings. And could you go to us, like, would you be able to go and find a patio to have a drink with your friends, like right now? Like if somebody said, "Hey, let's go for a drink," would you be like, "I'll meet you at," and go? Like, is that, yeah?
I think it's okay. I think it was okay as of yesterday.
Okay.
Yesterday or the day before. June 1st, I think, was the whenever we
Okay.
went into stage one. So I think you're allowed to do outdoor patios. I'm not sure about indoor eating.
Yeah, I heard that's not yet.
Yeah, so maybe it's not, that part's not yet. I mean, I did read the thing, but again, it changes every
Oh,
other
yeah.
day, so you don't know from one day to the next what the rules are today.
Yeah.
And then with Kenny in particular, he says one thing one week, and then the next week he completely reverses what he said the week before.
Well,
So
like
it's
the
like,
Calgary Stampede was supposed to be maskless, and then he was like, "Oh well, if we get enough, if there's enough people who've had the vax, then we can do the Stampede." I was like,
yeah.
it seems a little. It seems tying everything to the vaccination rate seems coercive
And
to me.
they're supposed to be having a vaccine uh, distribution, I guess, place at the Stampede. So it's like, come on down and get your
Oh,
vaccine before you go to the show.
it's the
I don't know if
worst.
that's true. But
That's
that's yeah.
it seems I made the comparison on my show that it's like a teen movie where they decide to have like the alternate prom or the anti prom or something like that, and like only the
Mhm.
scabs go to the real like go to the prom, and like the cool kids go to the alternate prom. I feel like that's
Yeah.
might happen with the like they'll have some rodeos during the stampede that are not officially Calgary Stampede, but it'll be
It's a good possibility. I mean, and speaking of that, I hear that the kids in Ontario get to have outdoor grads.
I talked about that a little bit on my show today as well. The logistics of it. So, on one hand, Doug Ford decided because some Arthur kid told him that he wanted to go to camp. And I said, Doug, did you threaten Arthur with like school or camp? Like, if you go to school,
Mhm.
there's no camp, Arthur. So,
Yeah, it
Ar-
makes you wonder, doesn't it?
it made me wonder. So Doug Ford told this story about this Arthur kid who said he wanted to see his friends, so he wanted to host a graduation day for all grades, but
Hmm.
no school. And the school board said we were ready to go back to school, but as soon as now it's time to figure out the logistics of having the kids come in for one day, they're like, well, hold on a second, this seems really complicated. And I'm sure
Yeah,
that it's going to be very expensive to do like this, bringing the kids into school for one day, but
but not in the school, outside of the
outside,
school.
right? I think I'd be happy if the teachers were just there for like a week, like seven
Hmm.
days, or not 7 days, 5 days, and then you could bring your kid and they could come and play at the school with the teacher for a week or whatever, in a couple hours, and
Hmm.
you pick them up. That'd be fine. But what they're doing is a mess. And I mean, like, it is Doug Ford and the medical officers of health across Ontario. It's been, well, you were saying the same thing. It's been inconsistently terrible. Like, if you're
Yeah.
in the northern
No, no, no.
Ontario,
Actually, it's been consistently terrible
yes,
because of its inconsistencies.
yes, exactly. That's what I meant to say. You're right. But like in northern Ontario, we've got places that have like no COVID, and like
Hmm.
the testing is low, and their hospitals are not full, but no hospitals are really full. And then they're locked down, right? And then
Yeah.
in Toronto's still locked down. They've been locked down since November, and there's no criteria. There's no real like we're moving towards something better.
Hmm.
It is a whole bunch of nonsense that seems like purgatory. We're waiting. Did you ever see the movie Waiting for Godot?
No, I haven't seen that
Oh,
one.
it's a good one. Gildenkrantz and Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. This is another one. They're waiting for
Oh,
something to
okay.
happen
Yeah.
and nothing ever happens.
Hmm.
This is the same thing. Um, and that's what it feels like. It feels like we're in this awful purgatory of COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. Because nothing's allowed to happen until it's there's always another
Hmm.
step on the road. So I mean, it was everybody's got a mask. Okay, so everybody masked. Okay, now that everybody's masks, and now it's social distancing. Okay, we social distanced. Okay, we did that for 2 weeks and another month, and it was just like constant go go go. And then it was just till we get through Christmas because you can't get together for Christmas. Okay, so we gave up Christmas, which was shocking for me because my
Hmm.
dad actually, that's his favorite time of the year.
Yeah.
And he called me a couple weeks before and he's like, don't bother coming home, we're not having Christmas. I'm like, what? You?
Wow. Wow. And
So
do you have to travel through the province or to different provinces?
yeah.
Yeah.
No, just north. I'm in Calgary, and it's Edmonton is north. The Edmonton Elks. It's a shame.
Oh yeah, that's terrible. That's terrible. Um, that's well, but at least no. Did you reschedule? What about Easter?
No.
Nothing. That's a
No, I'm
shame.
hoping to go and visit my family this summer. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm going to visit friends,
Yeah.
but my family, I I don't know what's happening with them. They don't seem to want to. And I mean, okay, for my dad and my stepmom, they're in their 70s, like
Hmm.
late 70s, but still, it's like, come on, guys.
How many?
This
How
has never
many?
stopped us before.
Yeah. How many flu seasons? I was gonna say how many flu seasons did they say? Just not this year. We're feeling a little worried about the flu this year. Any of those?
Yeah, never,
No. Yeah. And I mean,
never.
like, there have been people like we've had daycare, and they had hand, foot, and
Hmm.
mouth or something like that, and that's really contagious, and kids are like they'll lick everything. So
Yeah,
like so the daycare was like, maybe you should not bring the kid in. So every so often these things happen, you get told, but it's not like
yeah,
every daycare in Guelph got shut down because one daycare had hand, foot, and mouth. It's not like
no.
there was two kids who died in Guelph in one school, same school, of flu in 2018. You know what happened? Nothing.
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 Well,
Nothing at all.
mad cow disease ran through, I think it was mad cow disease, ran through the UK at one point. They never shut anything down for that.
Yeah, I remember I visited the UK and we went to farms, and
Hmm.
because of the mad cow protocols and things, you had to like
Hmm.
walk on hay and then like
Yep.
this liquid and then this liquid soaked hay, and then you could go on the farm, and then as you left, you had to walk through it in reverse. And I was like, is this helping? Is this really like I'm very skeptical. I'm like, seriously, this helps? Like, who's all
It's
right?
like
I guess.
ridiculous, but we okay, we'll do it. But they didn't shut anything down for
No,
it.
yeah, and I even ate a hamburger because it was super cheap. My uncle was like, he goes, Mark likes hamburgers. Give him a hamburger. I was like, I'll have a hamburger, sure.
Mad cow, all good. I think your uncle didn't like you, but
Yeah, jury's out. I think that he thought he was being funny, and my mom was like, "Don't encourage him." And I was like, "I'll have a hamburger." Like, it's on the menu. What are they gonna do? Serve this? Like, I was like 14 or something like that.
oh,
But
come on, let's be real. It was an American beef burger.
that's true. It was a beef burger. You're right. You're right. And
Hmm.
it had
Yeah.
like I think they used some kind of zesty like barbecue sauce, so it was kind of more zesty than I was used to. Those beef burgers.
Well, they have no idea what they're doing as far as hamburgers are concerned in the UK, but that's okay. It's
That's
still,
true.
good food.
That's true. It's true. Well, yeah, yeah. Good food. The UK is certainly known for its fusion.
Mm, yes, because,
Want a curry? Sure. Yes,
that's the national dish now, I
it is.
think.
Yeah, yeah. It could be
Yeah.
changing.
'Cause-
Okay, so
eh,
oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to move
We
on
could
to.
talk food from different countries
We
all
could,
day.
yeah.
So,
Speaking of food, um,
mhm.
not really speaking of food, but Trudeau was euphoric, and you didn't see this, eh? I was
Oh,
talking about this on my show. He was euphoric on Entertainment Tonight, talking about getting the shot,
he
and
was on Entertainment Tonight.
he was
That's
on.
where that.
Yeah, it was an Entertainment Tonight clip.
Why is our Prime Minister on Entertainment Tonight? Inquiring
Oh,
minds want to know.
oh, I don't know if he was doing an interview with Entertainment Tonight, although it may have been. Like, it's got the ET Canada branding there. So do you think I don't know if
Mhm.
they'd replay a prime minister, but she was interviewing him. Like the
Yeah.
ET host was interviewing him, and had a very Valley Girl affect about his voice, which I
Yes.
critiqued. But it was very contrite. She asked him if he cried when he got the shot, and
Yeah, I saw that little clip, and yeah, and crusty old uncles and stuff.
oh
It's
yeah, yeah.
just
This is the clip
yeah,
with the crusty old uncles. Yeah.
yeah,
So this, I mean, this clip, for me, it kind of underlines the social engineering, the reinforcing of the right think, reinforcing the action that the government wants you to engage in, and then in order to I don't know, increase vaccine uptake, increase the every all the goals of whatever
yeah.
this is. But it's really
Get
interesting.
compliance.
Yeah, but it's interesting to me how this like does this play well? Do you think like having the prime
I
minister act
debase
like Tom
himself.
Cruise? Yeah, remember Tom Cruise jumping on the couch with what's her
Oprah
name?
Winfrey, yeah.
Oprah, yeah,
Oprah
Oprah's couch
Winfrey,
jumping.
yeah.
He's all in love and stuff. That
With
didn't
Katie
help
Holmes,
Cruise.
yep.
Katie Holmes, that was it. That didn't help. And I
Yep.
think this is kind of similar. It's very just it's jarring. I don't know.
It's well, and I mean, I remember whenever they were saying that Trump was unpresidential.
Yeah.
Well, how is being a valley girl, mean girl kind of a weirdness be like becoming of a prime minister of Canada?
Yeah, I can you imagine Harper doing this? Like, oh my
Oh,
God,
heavens
guys. I
no.
was so happy to get my shot. I mean, he doesn't have the hair for it, right? The hair's
He's got pretty good hair, Stephen Harper.
he looks
It's
like
pretty good.
it's never out of place. It looks like a Lego man's hair. It's,
Yes, this is true, but he's got lots of it.
it is
So,
it is very
you
thick
know,
and robust. You're
it
not
is.
right. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
It's true.
So, I mean, as far as that's concerned, sure. I mean, he doesn't grow it long like a hippie, but
No.
I sound so old now.
Like a hippie, yes. Um, Stephen, I'm just imagining
Echoing my
Stephen
dad.
Harper. I think Stephen Harper was in like accounting school during the hippie years, wasn't he? Like he was probably like
Oh, even worse, he was an economist.
see right there you go. Wow.
Yeah.
Even
That's
worse, they
like
were busy
okay, so
rewriting the rules to make sure what happened now is happening now. Although Harper did a good job through 2008, right? So
yes. Yeah,
I'll,
I maintain that as far as getting through difficult periods
Yeah.
economically,
Yeah.
who do you want in control of the money? An economist. They have no personality, but that's okay because you don't need them to have a personality. You need them to crunch numbers
Yeah, yeah, and
and have a cool head.
look at what the personality did for the personality and panicky nature of Justin Trudeau did to our economy, right? Like, we'll just
Yeah.
spend 3 times what World War II cost. Everybody was fine with that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yikes!
No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
it's a nightmare and we're going to hit a crash. Like the wall is coming and it's coming fast. And it
Yeah.
just seems like so many people don't understand it.
Did you
I
see
was talking
the?
to a friend. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, did you see the tweet from Texas with the empty fresh fruit shelves in spring? I thought that was kind of jarring. And I mean, it's not here. I've been paying close attention here, but here we've got
Hmm.
beef prices increasing. I don't know if you're seeing that out in Alberta, but in Ontario, beef prices are increasing.
Which
So
is crazy because we grow beef here and
we
we
do.
grow some of the best beef in the world here.
Hmm.
Yeah, we raise cows. I mean, come on. Like we're apparently Alberta beef is second only in quality to Kobe beef,
Hmm.
and which is Japanese. And I can really understand that after having beef in Eastern Europe,
Hmm.
because yeah, you don't want to eat the beef in Eastern Europe if you're used to Alberta beef. It's just not the same.
Yeah, and beef burgers, firsthand experience, not the same.
Beef, yeah,
Beef burgers in the
no,
UK, Alberta beef is
yeah,
better.
no, no,
Yeah, no, it's weird. I think it is part of the UN agenda, in my opinion, and they are using nudge tactics rather than outright banning it. They're going to make it $100 a pound, $200 a pound. They'll say,
yeah,
yeah, you can eat beef. You can eat as much beef as you can afford, baby, right? And make sure that you can afford a quarter of a pound, because that's
well,
they'll do the same with gas, I think. But I was more worried about
probably.
that when they were talking about Line 5 not working anymore. But Canada's not rushing to build an alternative here. We're really going all in on they'll never shut it down. And it's like, guys, we've had time. We
Um,
could have done something about this.
well, isn't that the liberal way?
Oh yeah,
It's kick it down the road and so that they don't have to deal with it. I don't know who they think is going to deal with it eventually, unless they're not planning to be in power for very long.
yeah. Well,
Because at some
six
point they
years
got to
later.
actually do a job.
Yeah,
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 well,
yeah.
that's not our fault in the West.
No.
Just saying. That's all you guys down east.
Yeah, it's
All
true.
you guys.
It's true. It's true. And it is, yeah, very,
If we
very
could get
eastern.
you guys to see right, maybe we'd have a hope.
I don't know what the conversation would need to look like because in Ontario, well, and I was just going to point out, you in the green room, we were talking before the show about them wanting to take John A. Macdonald off of the $10 bill, and I
Hmm.
said, well, there's a whole. I was looking through CP24's tweets this morning, looking for a specific one talking about transferring patients, but it doesn't matter. Um,
Mm.
I was looking for a specific one, and I came across two things. They're looking at trying to rename Ryerson, remove Ryerson's statue, and there was another.
Hmm.
There was another. Oh, here it is. I have the headline. Charlottetown voted unanimously to put the statue of Canada's first prime minister into storage. So we're at a situation where people are actively trying to suppress and diminish our history. So you're right, indeed. Who's going to
Hmm.
fight? Nobody's going to. No,
And
nobody's going to
it
want to take the
deconstructs
social risk.
it deconstructs Canada
Hmm.
because how else? It was Sir John A. Macdonald that created Canada, really.
Yep.
Because if it wasn't for him, parts of Manitoba, there wouldn't be Alberta, Saskatchewan, as I said, parts of Manitoba. I'm not sure if the territories were part of that or not,
Hmm.
but none of that would be part of Canada, and BC would be off in its own, probably its own country,
Yep.
maybe part of the states. Um, sort of the central west part of Canada, the prairies,
Hmm.
would most likely today be part of the United States,
Yep.
which I know some of the Wexiters would love,
Would be
but
all over that. They'd be like, man, what
yeah.
happened? Darn you, John. Hey, get a statue down.
Exactly. Yeah, take a statue down for different reasons.
Yeah, right, yeah. We disagree with his
So,
policies and not his
yeah,
racial
we
policies.
want to go back to being possibly part of the United States.
Right, yeah.
Please, Joe
So,
Biden, take us.
yeah. So it is very concerning to see this push to rename the and I've been talking on my show about how they're attacking the foundation of the country. And you're right. I think it
Hmm.
deconstructs Canada in a way that has the public support. If you were to say, listen, your country, it's pretty terrible and we'd really like the oil, Canadians would say
Mm-hmm.
no, right? But
Yeah.
if they slowly make you believe that the things that
Mm-hmm.
hold your country together and make our country what it is and who we are,
Yeah.
if you just take out men, they're toxic. Take out
Mm-hmm.
Christianity, it's
Yep.
they
Toxic.
debase it, toxic, right? Well, I
Mm-hmm.
think they try and debase it. I think they're trying to take Christianity and marry Christmas to Santa Claus and marry the
Mm-hmm.
Easter to the Easter Bunny and chocolate, and then
Mm-hmm.
that'll be good enough for Canadians. I think that's the
Well,
goal. I think that's
and
what.
okay, so a walk down history, just for fun.
Right.
Um,
Mao's Great
so
Leap Forward.
well, there's that, but you can go back even further. Anytime that they start getting rid of history or information, you go into kind of a dark age.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go back to the library at Alexandria. The reason that that was destroyed, or a big part of it, was so that they could control the masses. Because if you don't have the information, if you don't have that history, then you can't be standing for anything.
Right.
There's nothing that you can hold on to say this is foundational.
Yeah.
Now you look at the beginning of the church. Part of that, like the Christian church, part of that, what they were doing was they took secular religions and kind of interwove it into Christianity, which was originally a Jewish sect,
Mm-hmm.
and they created this whole new thing. We're kind of doing the same thing. The marrying it with Santa Claus and Easter, it's secularizing,
Mm-hmm.
which secular, I don't know exactly how you'd put it, but like the secular thing now is the new religion.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So anything that doesn't fit within that secular religion has to go.
Yep. And I think that they're effectively using so like all of this is a very interesting mechanism. It's a whole machine. Like on
Mm-hmm.
one side of things, you've got school boards pushing critical race theory, which directly attacks uh, white white people generally, and
Yep.
specifically white males, but generally
Mm-hmm.
white people. And then you've
Yep.
got the institution of the government saying we found we've used ground radar,
Mm-hmm.
and found this mass grave maybe, but we're not going to dig it up. But we want the Pope to apologize for the Catholic school's role in it, and the government's terrible. But the government only
Mm-hmm.
had the custody of this for 10 years, the last 10 years, and the Catholic
Mm-hmm.
Church being in charge of it for the 80 years or something to that effect. They'd have records, and not to mention the fact that we need to dig it up, but they're using it to attack a foundation of the country. This is a multi-pronged attack, very well thought
Mm-hmm.
out, and the
Yep.
assets are being deployed just like you would in a military. You'd be like, go, 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 and look
Yep.
at where
It's
we're at.
dominoes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's dominoes that just keep falling into
Yep.
place.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, okay, so Sir John A. Macdonald is getting grief for that school, but that school at the time was under the Catholic Church's control.
Right.
And if it's the last 10 years, I'm not sure how long that school was around, but the last 10 years, and the last of the new residential schools was put in place by, guess who?
Yeah. Dear old
Pierre
dad.
Elliott Trudeau.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, how about instead of just going, and the last 10 years of that school might have been part of Trudeau's, like Pierre Elliott Trudeau's legacy, was
Yeah.
that those were still around whenever he was in power.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
are we taking his statues down? Are we renaming airports that are named after him, or other monuments or whatever? No.
Right.
How
So-
about Laurier, another liberal who did horrible things? What about him?
Mm-hmm.
How is he not touchable?
I think, and we were talking in the green room about this as well, and I think this is a good example of us focusing on a battle and losing the war.
Mhm.
Like we might be
Yeah.
right, and like I think you're right. I think that the press would never bring up that Pierre Elliott Trudeau oversaw the schools, and if they did, they wouldn't stretch it to demand the removal of statues and things.
No, they'd make excuses
celebrating him.
for it.
Well, they would think the excuse is implied enough. Don't worry about it. Like we don't have to articulate the excuse. You know, and we know that Justin's the prime minister, and we're not mentioning this right now. Like so,
Yeah.
right? So the press is going to give it a pass, and
Mhm.
and so. Are we missing the forest for the trees? Are we focusing on this battle where, I mean, if you look at it, maybe we win, maybe we don't. Who knows? While missing the war that's happening at the
Well, and
foundation,
that's the
right?
thing. There's a bunch of little battles all over the place,
Constant.
and we're all getting lost in all of these other little battles, and we're missing the main objective.
And I
And
think that,
look at the PPC and the CPP
yeah,
in 2019. Instead of focusing on the actual enemy, we were too busy fighting, throwing rocks at each other, as far as supporters are
I
concerned.
didn't see. Yeah, I didn't. Okay, there was a lot of. So I went through that election. I was a candidate, and there was a lot of. There were a lot of people on Twitter and on social media, and even in real life, who were animated by not actual politics, but animated by outside forces. So they were bots,
Mm-hmm.
or they were protesting because the university wanted them to, or Antifa wanted them to, or whatever
Mm-hmm.
group it was. And so I don't know that there was a lot of like the conservative candidate in Guelph was a super nice guy, very he was the first one to come over and shake my hand, and
Mm-hmm.
that's just a quick anecdotal story, but there wasn't a lot of animosity in my feeling from the Conservative Party to the PC Party, and unless you were talking about like Andrew Scheer and Bernier, and even that
Yeah.
Andrew Scheer knew what the deal was and knew why he won, right? Like anybody
It
who
wasn't so
watched.
much it wasn't so much the people running, it was the people who are supporters. It was like the camps were drawn
Mhm.
and they started throwing rocks at each other. And it's
Yeah,
like, whoa, like
but I think
stop.
that I think that that's did you watch the Black Bloc guys in the 2011 G7 or G20 in Toronto? You know what I'm talking about?
No.
The guys who
Refresh
show
my
up.
memory.
Okay, there were riots in Toronto and they kettled them, and like the Black
Oh, that
Bloc
was
guys.
right.
Maybe it wasn't 2011, maybe 2009, and it doesn't matter. What they did is it's really easy to turn a crowd. You get a crowd of
Hmm.
people, 100 people, 200 people, and you get three or four guys who are agitators in the crowd, and you find some people
Hmm.
who are just right at the edge, and you push their buttons, right, and you
Yep.
boil those guys over, right, and then you find
Yep.
some other people who are willing to get into the mix, and all of a sudden you've got a riot. It's really
Yep.
really easy to do. I've
Hmm.
watched people do it, right?
Hmm.
And like because I go to political rallies, because I know what I'm looking at, I can see it
Yep.
happening, and I think that happens online too, right? Like you
Hmm.
can get two or
Yeah.
three bots who find somebody who's real. Like I tweet under my own name and people find me. You get two or three bots who find somebody who's real and who's willing to engage, and then you
Hmm.
turn them. You recruit and you turn them on your target, and you can buy these people. Like you can buy
Hmm.
bots like that. You can buy a whole freaking army. You could do it on Fiverr.
Yeah. Oh,
Like
yeah. Yeah, exactly. I was
it's
going to say, I
crazy.
mean, that's old marketing stuff. You can
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
get like what the Indian traffic farms, you can get reviews, you can do all kinds of things
Everything.
if
Yeah,
you know where to look.
yeah. Right, exactly. And these people know
Yeah.
where to look. And I mean, they've got marketing budgets of an
Hmm.
unbelievable amount, right? Like it's
Yeah.
incredible what they can turn. So we've got a situation where, like, yes, I think that there's some division, but I don't think that any
Hmm.
conservative-minded person in history would be like, that conservative party, they're the evil ones. Like, I
Well,
think
and
it's such a
yet, I
weird
mean,
thing.
I'm watching from the Wexit point of view.
Hmm.
We have like all these little separatist groups that are all
Hmm.
fighting amongst themselves like idiots instead of going, okay, wait a second. We have this idea of what we want. Why aren't we staying focused on that? Why is it who gets to be the big dog in the ring? Like, how
Crowd
about we put our
psycho
egos aside?
It's not egos.
Go ahead.
Crowd psychology works in the same way for groups like that. It's the same thing. You get if
Hmm.
you like if you're a person who like the civil rights movement, right?
Right.
In
Yeah.
the 60s, I think that there's and I could be wrong, but I think that there's documentation talking about how the CIA had purchased informants within and had created groups that were recruiting for and against. So if you own
Hmm.
both sides of the argument, and if you own the
Yep.
lieutenants, right? Like if the person who is the main person in the movement, say MLK or whoever the movement, doesn't matter who
Hmm.
it is, right?
Yeah.
Is surrounded by people who are controlled by CIA, then the message from the group is watered down, right? It is not as
Well,
effective
and
as it
and
would be.
that's what they think happened to Anonymous as well,
Yeah, yeah,
because
and
Anonymous.
Wall Street, defund Wall Street. I think the
Yeah.
same thing happened to them. They were people realized that was an organic movement. People were really drawn to it. Then
Hmm.
a leader gets chosen and anointed by media. Then people start listening to the leader. The whole group gets turned, and then now it's a corporate. Now it's something that's being run by corporate, and the voice of that movement is usurped and turned to whatever ends they want it to be, right? And it's a very it's a great attack because people want to be seen as helping, and then they're turned to actually working against their actual goals. And I'm not saying that I have any inside knowledge about Wexit or anything like that, but if you're not meaningfully working towards or moving towards your goals, then I wouldn't say infighting, and I don't know. Maybe infighting is the problem. Maybe that's the whole
Oh,
issue.
there's infighting.
But maybe that's not the issue. Maybe the issue is nobody knows what the next step is, and it's easier to because humans do this all the time. Like it's easier to go clean your room than it is to. It's like avoiding the hard work that you have to do, right? Like I have to do
Yeah.
these 4 things. 3 of them are hard, and 1 of them is easy. I guess I'll go do the dishes. You know, like. Um,
Yep.
Right, I ran out of time. Shucks, I can't believe that didn't work. Right, and people do
Yes.
that, and the same here. Like the hard work is you have to move this widget to this place in order to get this next step. And if nobody's working to do that most important thing, then nobody's actually working to the goal. But I don't know. I'm just some dude
Yeah.
in Ontario.
Oh, in Wexit, it's definitely it's a lot of egos, and everybody wants to be top dog, and it's like, okay, you got to focus on what you want and stop playing these games because it's not getting us anywhere. Although I have to say, WIPA is doing really well. It looks like Paul Hinman is probably going to be the leader, and that's awesome. I like Paul, so hopefully that will help to kind of solidify everything and get everybody moving in the same direction.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Do you think
And
that
and mhm.
Do you think that Wexit would be used as a political shield like the Bloc uses separation, or do you think that there would actually be a move to separate Alberta from Canada? And would that be like connected to the United States, or would it be its own nation? Like,
Well,
what's the ultimate? Like, if you were to wave a magic wand and it all looked perfect,
mhm.
what
Well, I
what's
mean,
the
the
goal?
first step, the whole thing is it's a step-by-step process. The first thing, because I called it my book, The Reluctant Rebellion, because it's a reluctance to make that final call because people don't know what it's going to look like.
Mhm.
The point, though, is that the first steps need to be put in place regardless of whether there's separation or not. And I mean, I'm going to get all discombobulated, but you look at what's happened with Quebec being designated a nation within the nation,
Mhm.
which is exactly what destroyed Charlottetown and the Meech Lake Accord, um, because the rest of the provinces were like, no, you can't do this. So these are all pieces that are going to splinter the country, right?
Can you elaborate on Charlottetown and Meech Lake, just for anybody who doesn't
Okay.
know?
Okay, so the going back a little ways, 1982, the Constitution was patriated to Canada. The only way they got it was because they were supposed to open it up again to work out some of the details. But they had agreed, in essence, of what the Constitution was basically going to look like whenever it was brought to Canada.
Okay.
In let me see here, it's I think the early 90s. Brian Mulroney, who was prime minister at the time, brought forth 2 attempts at fixing the issues in the Constitution, which was supposed to be done. And what happened was he brought, I think it was Charlottetown was first and then Meech Lake, but it could have been the reverse, both in the early 90s or 87 and 93, maybe it was something
Yeah,
to that effect.
87, 93 makes sense.
Okay, so yeah, he brought those forward. They both failed, and they failed on the basis that Quebec cannot have special status within Canada. They didn't want them to be considered a nation within the nation.
Right.
And that's just because if you give one province superiority over all the other provinces, you got problems. You can't do that because each of the provinces, Canada is such a huge country that every area has very different needs and requirements, right? I mean, you're in Ontario. I don't know, you probably don't know a lot about the way that our economy works. It's a boom and bust economy in a huge way. And it's because of the cost of oil, or the price of oil, really.
Mhm.
Whenever things are working well in the oil sands, things are really good in Alberta. Whenever things are bad, they're really bad in Alberta.
Yeah.
There is no in between.
Yeah.
So that's different than other parts of the country. Manufacturing in Ontario, I know, is huge.
Yeah.
And when things are going badly in manufacturing, things go badly for all of Ontario.
Yeah.
In the Maritimes, it's all based on fisheries. In the north, there's a lot of mining and stuff. In BC, it's forestry. We have this huge, vast landmass that is so um, unique in that each area has such unique needs and unique economies. They can work together, but it seems like our leaders always want to pit us against each other.
Yeah. Yeah. So giving Quebec primacy over such a diverse landmass doesn't make any rational legal sense. Right?
No,
Okay.
it actually harms the rest of the country because then you have other areas, because then Quebec gets a lot of special privileges that the rest of the country doesn't.
Like top up payments?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yep. Terrible.
Should we go there?
No, no, no. I was just
I mean,
pointing it out.
that's one of the things I'm thinking. Okay, if Quebec gets to change the constitution at will and have French as their only,
Yeah, I thought that
um,
was interesting. The only language in there. Yeah.
yeah, because the rest of the country we have to have two official languages,
Mhm.
but in Quebec, French is the only official language,
Yeah.
which apparently was already there because they have another bill, um, Bill 100 or something, um, that says that they have that anyway,
Yeah.
which was a surprise to me.
Yeah, I
But
think it
I
was.
mean, then
Sorry.
how about Newfoundland decides that they're going to change the constitution and the only official language in Newfoundland is going to be Newfoundlandese?
Yeah. No,
I
I know.
think that's fair,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, I.
And in Alberta, how about we go, okay, you know what? We don't like this transfer of funds out of Alberta. We don't like equalization payments. So we're just going to stop doing that.
Mhm.
Okay. You guys figure it out.
Yeah.
Quebec, there goes your 13 million
Yeah.
or
Well,
13 billion.
billion. Yeah. I
It's
was gonna
billion.
say.
Yeah.
As soon as this all came out, I was hoping that Kenny and Mo would come out and say, "Hey guys, like." Great, I love this idea.
Yep.
We're declaring ourselves provinces too, and like so, Jason Kenney
Hmm.
would forward Alberta as a nation, and Mo would
Hmm.
second it, and then vice versa, and then everybody would go, never mind, ha ha ha, just
Yeah,
kidding, right?
exactly.
Like,
And that's what should have happened because
yeah,
if Mo and Kenny had their wits about them, that would have been the first thing to start getting leverage in this
yeah,
country
yeah,
and maybe actually getting some fairness for the West and
yeah,
for the Maritimes for that matter.
and for Ontario.
And well, outside of Toronto.
I was just getting in on the fairness. I don't know. We're still locked down, man. I can't get a haircut.
And I would agree. Outside of Toronto and Ottawa, the rest of the province doesn't seem to have much of a say of what goes on in your province.
Oh goodness, no, we don't get a say. No, no, that's Doug Ford's job. We just try and stay
Okay.
out of his way.
Yes, you just do what Uncle Dougie says and you'll be
He's a
fine.
crusty old uncle. No.
Maybe he'll come and make you cherry cheesecake.
Cherry cheese. Thanks, Doug. He told this whole Arthur story. We'll
I
have
heard
to
it.
leave it here because we're already at 38 minutes, which is
I'm
right
sorry.
where. No, it's okay. This is good. We're still figuring out how this is going to go, so it's all good. But he told that story, and he basically tells this story. We're in a lockdown. I think the lockdown ended yesterday or today, maybe. Stay-at-home order.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's supposed to go over to other people's houses. Outside only. Blah blah blah. He tells this story of
Yep.
going and knocking on the door of this place, and he's like, "Where's your parents?" And then he gets taken to this barbecue in the backyard. Like, what the? Like, you should be arrested, man. Can't
Yeah.
believe that people
Well,
aren't like.
it's again, it's rules for thee and not for me.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It's
you
quite
know,
annoying. Quite annoying.
it is.
Anyway,
It's kind of full circle.
it is right back to the beginning.
Hmm.
Comedy is circular, stories are circular. You gotta bring it back. Always, always,
Yes.
always, always.
And you did a brilliant job of it. 'Cause Dougie and Jason are pretty much the same person.
Yeah.
They're both
Unfortunately.
chubby little white guys that rule everything.
Right, but I mean, let's not get into race here.
Oh, are we not allowed to do that?
No, I'm just kidding. All right, where can they find you, Jilly?
Uh, all my links you can find at jillydavis.com. And that's
Nice.
Jilly with a G
Right.
or Gilly,
Or-
on bad
no.
days.
Sorry, it's terrible. I just read things and I put things on hooks in my head. All right,
know.
you can find me at CanadaPoly.com, my scratchpad at CanadaReport.co, the Speaking Moistly back catalog at SpeakingMoistly.co. And well, thanks for joining us. Gilly, usually I do last thoughts. Do you have any last thoughts before we go?
Last thoughts. Everybody just take care of yourselves and try to make the best of what we got.
Yeah. I always try and say, like, life doesn't pause because the politicians tell us we're on a lockdown or whatever. Like, you got to live your life and got to keep moving forward and set goals and do all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But don't stop just because somebody tells you to stop. Even if it sounds like it's a good excuse, don't stop. It's not worth it. You got to live.
It's really a bad idea because it's eventually you're going to have to pick up and start doing stuff. Yeah. And it's better to be already consistently going than having to make up that ground.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The more you expose yourself to, the stronger you get. The more you load on your plate until you can't anymore. Like when you find out that if you can't handle that extra project, all right, get that project gone. But it doesn't mean get all of them gone, right? Like you keep up all the rest. Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Right. All right, good final word. Nice. All right, Prime Minister will play us out. I had some feedback. People were like, I don't like Justin Trudeau in that song. I was like, I know, but it's the song. So we'll play it out. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll be back with Greg on Tuesday of next week. And Jilly, do you want to do it again? Maybe next Thursday?
Sure.
All right.
It's always fun.
Next week, we'll do the Western edition. All right.
Okay.
See you then.
Moistly. Speaking moistly. Keep 2 meters apart. Speaking moistly.